Good morning, everybody.
Mike?
I have mics on. Mine on. So I'd like to call the Door County Board of Supervisors Tuesday, April 19th, 2022 meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, for those that are new, okay, your tablets are on your desk. They're distributed by district. You touch the gray capital, if you haven't done so already, on the bottom of the tablet. It's looks like a capital. That'll get you into the system. Touch sign in. Swipe up to open if it's not open. Then touch the gray capital. Then hit sign in. Any action that's needed, meaning voting, signing in, saying you're present, it'll prompt you for that. When roll call is called, you will touch present. To request to speak during the meeting, please use the request to speak yellow button on the bottom of the tablet. That puts you in the queue and you will be called on in order of request to speak. You will also see who's speaking during discussion, since we're not familiar with everybody just yet. To make a motion, please touch motion, and to second it, please touch second. As a courtesy and to begin this new term, please allow time for the chair of the oversight committee responsible for the resolution or ordinance to make the motion, and allow a member of that oversight committee to make the second. It's not a race to see who can make a motion in a second, and it will be a courtesy thing for this term. To amend, if you decide to touch amend, that will amend a motion. Sometimes we do that by accident and we can clear that out, but you have that ability. Once a motion is made and seconded, you would see the amend button. And to vote, you will vote a, nay, or abstain, and you will be prompted at each time that there is a question to vote on. Sometimes you have voice votes and sometimes you have roll call votes. So you should all be signed in now and ready to roll. Yes? Thank you. It's because we didn't do roll call yet. All right, so we're gonna roll call. So you need to sign in first and connect. Nissa, you're not in.
Yeah, I am.
It's not connecting you. Go back out once and see if it lets you in.
David, you're not in either.
David,
Could you
Roy, are you guys in?
I know, we're having issues.
Unless you need a roll call.
Is it
Here
changing
you
at all? I'm doing that though.
Nancy, Roy, and David in the back. Okay, you guys just got it. Nancy, you're okay.
No, I put them in. Did you change it all?
It won't let me sign out either.
All right.
Oh wait, there we go. Now it will.
So just so you all know, this was tested yesterday and it did work. All of them.
Am I in now?
We'll see.
Yes. Looks like you are.
I just have a blank screen.
All right, well, Jason's in the back, so if we need help, he will be up to assist. Just before we go into your oath, we want to shout out to the Door County Sheriff's Office that helped us deliver your meeting packets to a lot of you, and thank you for the others who came in and picked yours up. And we want to thank the administrator for just being awesome. That was his own side note, not my. Judge, if you would come to the front.
All right, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Glad to see some old faces that I know well and some new faces. Congratulations to new members of the board. Oh, all right, very good. You know, the court system probably 3-4 years ago, and we went to, total electronic filing, but I think that's much less confusing than what I just listened to all here. So, good luck to all of you. All right, and ask that all of you please stand and raise your right hands and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I,
swear that I will support
swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially
and will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of County Board Supervisor
of the office of County Board Supervisor
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, you're all official. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Joe, should be logged in.
Thank you. What?
Should be logged in.
Yep, we'll worry about that during orientation. All right, well, let's move into orientation session. Ken, do you want to do welcome and intros?
Oh, sure. For this, the welcome, we thought, again, we have several new members, and we thought this would be a good chance for each supervisor, maybe just to introduce yourself, introduce your district, and maybe just state something about yourself of interest, or why you ran, or why you'd like to serve. But this is a chance for everyone to get to know, and why don't we start with David?
Says I'm logged in. Uh, David Anagle, District 16. Why did I run? I don't really know. Why I'm still here, I really don't know either. I represent the village of Egg Harbor, the town of Egg Harbor, portions of the town of Egg Harbor, and portions of Jackson Park. Yay, I got rid of Village Harbor.
Okay, on that note, I'm Nessa Norton, District 12. I've already figured out that this is probably gonna be the naughty corner. District 12 is City of Sturgeon Bay, and this is my third term, as a big chunk of you know, and I'm a 5th generation Door County resident, and I mean, this is home. So why wouldn't I run? Off to Bud.
Walter, Bud Collins, Town of Liberty Grove. I'll confirm what she just said about being the naughty corner here. I've known her for, 30 or 40 years. She used to ride the school bus when I drove for Gibraltar, and it was fun. The reason I ran is we needed somebody from the area that grew up there, was familiar with town government, and I felt I fit the bill. I've known a lot of people here at the Government Center for 40 years that I've been working as clerk and administrator for the town of Liberty Grove. And I felt it was important that somebody that lived in Liberty Grove partly would represent the town. Plus, I know a lot about the village of Sister Bay over many years too, so here I am.
Dale Vogel, District 13, which is the west side of the highway on Sevastopol side. There are 2 of them because of the size of the township. It's my second time here, and I was born and raised in Sturgeon Bay, and know a lot of you.
Okay.
Elizabeth Gauger. I'm now District 15. This is my second term, and I represent Town of Egg Harbor. I'm also on Town of Egg Harbor Board, and then the town of Sevastopol is now part of the redistrict. I love Door County more than any place on this planet. I don't even want to go on vacation because my life's a vacation now. So I want to serve as long as I can.
I'm Morgan Rusnak. I represent District 11, which is the city of Sturgeon Bay, closest down by the shipyard, that area. I am here because I did not grow up in Door County. I'm not born and raised here, but I am a transplant who cares deeply about this place. This is home. I echo everybody else so far. And I want to make sure this stays sustainable for generations to come. You can't just stop here. We got to keep going. So that's why I'm here.
Good morning, I'm Dave Leno. I am District 19, which is a new district for me. Bud and I now split Sister Bay. Before Sister Bay was in one area, or one supervisor district. So I have now picked up a little bit of Sister Bay, some of Ephraim, Liberty Grove, some of Bailey's Harbor. I think that's it. I've been on the board for, I don't even know how long, I think 5 or 6 terms. I certainly enjoy it. I'm born and raised in Sturgeon Bay. I defected to Sister Bay when I moved back here after being in the military for many, many years. I moved up north, ingrained myself up there, fortunately, and I just enjoy serving the people of Door County. It's a great place to be, live, and to serve your neighbors. So, thank you.
Todd Thays, representing District 2. District 2 is portions of Township of Brussels, Village of Forestville, and the Township of Forestville, largely bordering Kewaunee County and the far southern portions of the county here. I ran because of my continual interest in local politics and more or less to continue a family legacy of serving in local politics. And this is my second term, and I'm happy to be here.
Jeff Miller, I'm a newbie, as you call me. I was born and raised in Door County. I represent District 5, which is Nassauwappee. Been living there for about 15 plus years. Basically, after 47 years of commercial lending, retired. Had a year or so off and decided that it was time to get back involved because that's just my nature. So I thought it was important to get back involved in the community.
Joel Gollickson, District 21. I'm a native of Washington Island, which also represent north half of Liberty Grove from Mink River Road up to Gills Rock and Northport area. I think this is the 7th, if not 8th term on the board here. Been involved in local government and politics since right out of high school, so wanted to keep the trend going and help the community.
Hi, I'm Alexis Hine-Peter, District 10, also the city of Sturgeon Bay. I was actually appointed September of 2019, recruited by a current county board member, and then appointed by our Mr. Lino and Vice Chair at the time, Mr. Fisher. I appreciate the opportunity. They saw something in me, and from there I decided that I loved it. I fell in love with serving and being a part of this board and being a part of the community, and it got me involved. And I am a new mom. I moved a young family up here, and as Supervisor Resnick said, it's important to me that we support those workers and the workforce here as well for generations to come.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Hugh Zettel. I represent District 14, which is kind of the eastern half of the town of Sevastopol, and it now includes the northern part of the town of Sturgeon Bay. I want to first acknowledge Biz Verley from the town of Sevastopol and Sue Cowhout, who was from the town of Sturgeon Bay, and thank them for their service for the constituents in my district. I'm a fourth-generation Door County resident, born and raised in the great town of Nassauwappee, and we had construction and cherry orchards and apple orchards in our family. And then basically I returned to Door County and one of my goals is to try to make sure we protect the quality of life, character, and environment for generations to come. Thank you.
I'm Vinnie Shomo with representing District 18, which is the town of Gibraltar and most of the village of Ephraim, besides a little portion in the north. This is my third term, and I'm excited to be here again. Echoing some of the things some of the other supervisors have said. I am not a native to Door County, but started coming here when I was about 5 and spent as much time as I could here since, and have lived here for about 25 years. So it's a place I really care a lot about, and being on this board is one way to be involved. I work with Gibraltar School through the Friends of Gibraltar, so do a lot of programming for youth and care a lot about what this place is like for young families making a decision to live here and being able to sustain themselves here. So that's why I'm on the board.
I'm Dan Austin, District 9. You're sitting in my district right now. I ran 44 years ago and it became a habit.
Go ahead.
Me? I have to follow that?
You can do better.
I've only been here for 11 terms, going on my 12th. I don't think I'll get to 40 years like Dan. Anyway, born and raised in Sturgeon Bay. Ken Fisher is my name. Born and raised in Sturgeon Bay. Why I ran is because I wanted to get involved, and once I did, I enjoyed it, so I stayed on. Oh, and I represent the District 6, which is as you look at the map, it would be the southeast corner of the city of Sturgeon Bay, and part of the northeast section of the town of Sturgeon Bay. I'm done.
Okay.
They know all they need to know now.
All right, thanks, Ken. My name's Rodney Beardsley. I'm also not native to here. I'm from Montana, but I do love Door County. I think it's a great place. Want to make a positive difference and see it continue to just be a great place to live. District 8, and I guess the other thing is I want to get involved. Doesn't seem like other people in my district interested, so that's another reason. So.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Claire Morgan. I represent District 7, which used to be District 11, City of Sturgeon Bay on the west side, Temple Park and west side waterfront. I too am a transplant. I'm not originally from Door County, but Milwaukee originally. We always came up here as a family growing up. Just loved Door County, and that's why I wanted to serve, to be more part of the community and help affect some positive change.
David Engelbert. I represent the town of Union and part of the town of Brussels. That's District 1. I first got on the board back in '92. It was actually Jeff Miller's father that recruited me to run to replace him. Roger Miller had served for a number of years. I knew him well through the Lions Club and other organizations. And I served for 12 years, took 12 years off to take care of my parents and a neighbor couple and so forth. And when there was an opportunity to come back on, I did. But at the local level, I've been on the town board, the last local assessor in the town of Union. I served doing that for 10 years. And occupation-wise, there's be 50 years, June 1st, that I purchased the family farm that I'm on. And that's been in the family next year 150 years. So 5th generation as well. And always had an interest in serving the community.
Good morning. I'm Roy Engelbert. Dave Engelbert is related to me. Our great-grandfathers were brothers. Is that the connection?
Yes.
So you figure out what our relationship is. I can't. I moved back to Door County 20 years ago to the home farm. And being in Door County, I still consider it a privilege to be living here. We have a very unique county. And I got involved in local politics and now county politics because I want to serve. I think I can help and contribute to the welfare and the good work of our county.
Hi, I'm Nancy Robillard. I represent District Number 4. I represented District Number 5 which was mostly Nassau-Waupee and part of Gardner for I think it's 6 years. And now I represent Number 4, which is the town of Gardner, which I have lived in for 50 years. And I was born and raised in Door County, lived here all my life. Love it here. Wouldn't change that. I've been in town government for most of my adult life. In some way or another, I have probably served in government for most of my adult life. Enjoyed doing it.
Thank you. Good morning. Bob Boltman. I live in Bailey's Harbor and serve District 17, which is most of Bailey's Harbor now, and the northern part of Jacksonport. I was born and raised in Green Bay and came to Door County regularly my entire life. My parents now live in Fish Creek, so I'm fortunate to have family close by, even though we didn't grow up here. But honored to continue serving the tradition of public service in my family, and happy to be part of hopefully the solutions.
Excellent, thank you. So, Grant, why don't you just introduce yourself, and we'll do Jill, and go ahead.
Hi, Grant Thomas. I'm Door County's Corporation Counsel. This is my 12th organizational meeting, so I've been here for a while.
Jill Lau, County Clerk. I've been here since 2007, so headed into my 16th year, and I've enjoyed most of it.
And yes, good morning, Ken Pavick. I'm your county administrator. So I've been here about 7 years. I very much enjoy working for the county, although working with Jill sometimes has its ups and downs. So
extra special.
there you go. But I look forward to working with the board and trying to, meet your goals and objectives. I agree that our county has very unique opportunities, some unique challenges, but I think with us working together, the diversity of this group, I think we can make a lot of things happen and again, achieve a lot of those goals that you're envisioning. So I'm looking forward to working with you. In terms of the rest of the format this morning, what we'd like to do, I'll have some of the other department heads introduce themselves when they come up, but we're going to just do a brief orientation as we have through. So what we're going to start with first is this the legal considerations. And as part of the orientation, we actually have a packet that was delivered to you, and we're going to be referring to that in some cases. Again, they're numbered with the page numbers, but I think what I'll do is I will turn it over to Grant and you can get us started.
Yep, I'm gonna stand up because I'm sitting down.
You gotta hit the button for some reason on that one.
Even if I hit the button. There we go. Just to echo what Ken said, these organizational meetings are always fun, and our county board meetings aren't always fun. Because what you get, it's the one chance you get to have the whole group together and maybe give some thought to what we want to accomplish over the next 2 years. And, you know, for that reason, I think this is a day to celebrate. But now we've got to delve into the legal, which is boring. I'm not going to speak in depth about any of these topics. The material I provided for you in the packet, hang on to and refer to. First thing is, if you have any questions about any of this, just give me a call. And that's probably the best advice I can give you. That's why we're here in my office, can give you advice and keep us from going off the rails, so to speak. First topic I want to talk about is the limit of county board administrative authority, and it's relatively straightforward and simple. When you're talking about the county board and its subunits, the legislative and policy setting responsibilities rest in county board. The administrative and managerial functions, the so-called day-to-day operations, rest with the county administrator. And sometimes those two collide, and I don't mean that in a negative sense because it's kind of difficult to determine exactly where the line is, but something that is frequently said at organizational meetings by corporation councils is, in speaking to county boards, is you have to avoid the impulse to micromanage. And you'll hear that from me from time to time, but it's something we figure out as we go along. Next, we go to the legal status of counties and how exercised. First, what we have to remember are counties are creatures of statute. Counties only exist because the state permits counties to exist. When we want to look to what a county can and can't do, we look at the Wisconsin statutes and the case law that's been interpreting those statutes for many, many years. The primary statute we rely on is Chapter 59, or excuse me, Chapter 59. Chapter 59 tells you pretty much everything a county can do and can't do. So in this regard, if the state hasn't given the counties the authority to do something, we lack the authority to do it. On the other hand, once we're given the authority, we have a fairly broad ability, which is called administrative home rule, to carry out that responsibility. So how we do things is left to local discretion, but what we're able to do is really a matter of what's in the statutes. Powers are generally exercised by the county board in two ways: through the adoption of a resolution or the enactment of an ordinance. Typically, a resolution is declaring a policy imperative. An ordinance is declaring something lawful or unlawful. So that's kind of the difference. We do have a code of ordinances, and those are enforced through my office on the civil side. Next topic, conflicts of interest, ethics, and incompatibility. Basically, it comes down to the statutes prohibit public officials from engaging in official conduct that produces a private benefit. What I tell everybody when they ask me whether they can do something or not do something, if it's not entirely clear, you have to kind of rely on that little voice in your head, the conscience that says, I probably shouldn't do this. And if the voice in your head is saying you probably shouldn't do it, don't do it. And I can give you one example in terms of ethics and conflicts of interest. The statutes and Attorney General opinion speaks to things of value. And the AG has opined that something of value is $26 and above. Magically, if it's $25 or below, it's not a conflict of interest. No, that's obviously silly. The best advice I can give to you is if you go to lunch with somebody and it's on county business and they're a vendor or somebody who's looking to influence you one way or another, they want to buy you coffee, it probably flies under the statutes, but my own rule is I'm paying for my own coffee. It's not worth 75 cents to have somebody question whether or not I was unjustly influenced in some way or some fashion. Your best kind of get out of jail free card with the conflicts of interest is ask me in advance. I will not opine on something once it's happened, but if you ask me before you do something, I can tell you, yes, you can do it, no, you can't do it, and that's sort of I'm being a little bit facetious, a get out of jail card. The Corporation Council told me I could do it, you're fine. So that's the best thing if there's ever a question on ethics or compatibility or conflict of interest is ask me first and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you quickly. Other two topics I'm going to cover kind of together are the open meetings law and public records law. The open meetings law, basically, there are two tests, a numbers test and a purpose test. If there's enough of you that get together and you're discussing something that falls within the realm of a county board's authority, you have a meeting. If you have a meeting, you've got to publish notice, you've got to have an agenda, and there are time constraints that need to be met. So it's relatively straightforward and simple. Where people get into trouble, and I'm speaking to the 4 new supervisors because you haven't probably experienced this before, is around the edges. A quorum of you is sufficient to make a decision. There's also something called a negative quorum, which is if there's something requires, say, a supermajority vote, and less than a quorum can stop something, then that's also prohibited. But basically, there's almost no exceptions to that. If you find yourself in a situation where you think that there's a meeting taking place and it hasn't been properly noticed, the best thing to do is just to get up and leave. You can also have meetings in a way that most people don't think. It can be kind of a phone tree thing. If I'm calling Ken, and Ken and I are on a board of 3 people, and I'm trying to sway his opinion on something, and then I call Jill, she's the 3rd person, that series of phone calls is probably a meeting, and is probably be avoided if you're discussing something that's going to come up at a meeting, and by virtue of those discussions, the meeting and the vote that's going to take place at that meeting is a fait accompli. It's already been decided. The whole purpose of the public or open meetings law is to have matters debated and decided in full public view. So again, it's relatively simple and straightforward. Jill takes care of putting the agendas together, make sure they get published. I make sure that what's on the agenda meets whatever legal conforms it needs to meet. And as long as, if you ever want anything put on agenda, contact Jill and we'll make sure that it gets on the agenda.
Could you explain if that applies to emails as well, or is there email communication?
Yeah, I forgot the dangers of technology. You can also have a meeting with email, texting, social media. So you just have to kind of avoid that. Even sitting at a meeting like this today, it's technically inappropriate for you to be texting each other in the context of a meeting. If you're going to have a discussion, it should take place in full public view on the board floor. And kind of the same thing with a phone call. If you have a series of emails that go out to enough individual supervisors that constitutes a quorum, and then you're technically having a meeting. So what you'll see is when Jill sends out emails to you, she sends them out to you as a group, but you can't respond back as a group. And that's one way we can protect you with technology, but what we can protect you from if you're using your own email and you're emailing enough of the other county board supervisors that it might constitute a quorum or a negative quorum that can become problematic. That's a good dovetail into the public records because also any record that we create presumptively has to be retained for 7 years. There's a records retention ordinance, records retention statutes, and there are things with the advent of technology that people that have gray hair like I do don't think of necessarily as records that are records. When I first started doing this, all I had to worry about was paper. Paper's easy. You put it in a file cabinet. We used to rent storage lockers to put our paper files in, retain them for 7 years. You know, heaven forbid we actually had to find something sometimes, but we had them. Now with email, with texting, even information we put out on Facebook pages, we take snapshots and retain those because we're obligated to retain those. So text messages, if you use your personal phone for county business, are potentially subject to disclosure. So I think the message there is limit your use of the electronics and social media for county business to the extent you're able to, because sometimes those records are difficult to retrieve. For instance, with your phone records, quite frankly, with the texting, I have no idea how you would get those. But you sure as heck don't want to turn your personal cell phone over to me or my assistant or some attorney that the county mutual has hired on our behalf, and they're working with a phone company to go through your personal cell phone records to see what constitutes county business, what doesn't constitute county business, so on and so forth. So my best advice is to kind of limit the use of that and just keep in the back of your mind, pretty much anything you're going to do today in this electronic age is going to create a record of some sort, and we want to limit the number of records that we create. And you are the custodians of your own record. There are certain things that we maintain, but records that you create, you technically are the custodians. One thing I will encourage, if you're going to use email, use your county email, because the wonderful people in technology services, when you hit delete, it's off your computer, but it is automatically maintained for 7 years from the point in time where you delete it. So we have the ability to go and search that and find that if you need to. So I guess a plug to use your county email for county business. Avoid using your personal email because you don't want somebody delving into your personal email and trying to decipher what might be county business and what might be personal, and it's just not a good thing, not a good situation to be in. Next topic, parliamentary procedure. If we get down to talking about parliamentary procedure at a meeting, we've kind of lost control of the ship. My view is we have rules of order that are simple and straightforward, and we've conducted meetings pursuant to those rules of order for many, many years. The idea is to be able to get from point A to point B, to have a topic and make a decision in some sort of an orderly fashion. If we have 9 of you looking through Robert's Rules of Order and asking me as parliamentarian to make a ruling, we've kind of, again, lost control of the meeting, lost our focus, and we simply don't want to go there. But parliamentary procedures necessary for the structure and organization of meetings and make sure that we can get to point A to point B. We just don't want to go overboard with it. Finally, I'm going to give a plug for the 2022 WCA County Officials Workshop. The information is in the materials that were provided to you. This is a more in-depth view of all the information that I covered today, and it's from the expert 90 miles down the road. So you have somebody from the WCA who's going to give this presentation to any number of county boards in the Northeast region. And I would encourage you, particularly for newly elected supervisors, to attend that, because it's well worth your while to get that information early on in your career as supervisor, and it'll help you in your carrying out your duties and responsibilities. So thanks for your time and attention. And again, if you take nothing else from this, if you have any legal questions, contact me first. Thanks.
Any questions for Grant? If not, we will continue on. And Jill.
Okay, on your desk this morning, you would have had a few sheets clipped together. The first one is your 2022 meeting schedule. These dates should be pretty solid. Every now and then, we do have to change up for one reason or another. However, this year, for September, we should be able to have it on our regular date, as the conference that most attend is the week before. The only other dates to note then would be the November meeting is your budget meeting and annual meeting, and that is always the Tuesday after the second Monday, unless that's Veterans Day, and then it would be the following day. So the one thing to note, next month will be Picture Day, assuming that we don't have snowbanks anymore. And so we just ask that you wear your Sunday best and that you arrive early. We generally will set up in the either hall or peninsula room, and you'll get your individual pictures as well as your group picture. The next thing I had on your desk was the meeting schedule. This is the proposed committee schedule, although once your committees are formed, the chair will work with the rest of the members to set a solid date and time, a day of the week and time. With the combining or the restructuring that we assume will pass, this is what it's based on, and this is what you hopefully will come close to when you actually establish that date. We do like a consistent date so that we can plan that each month. And then there was also, if you haven't already filled them in, you please fill them in by the end of the meeting today. When we recess for committee on committees, you'll have a little time. There is the conflict of interest that I need back from you, and then your information. This is for your constituents to contact you, and it will also be printed in our official directory and will be listed on the website. So we need that information, and then some miscellaneous information about mileage on the bottom. And I think that's all I have. Oh, no, one more thing. So each month, we like to have treats as a board. So in the back of the room, there will be a sign-up sheet, and if you would like to share with your co-members of the board, you just put your name down for the month that you would like, and if nobody has a name down, you generally won't have treats. Coffee is provided. And then for, also when we're on break, if you can sign your oath of office and then just return it back to me so I can get the judge to sign them for later. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. All right, we'll have Steve Whipperforth. He's our finance director. He's going to go over some of the basic finance information that you'll be interested in. Steve?
Good morning. As Ken said, my name is Steve Whipperforth. I'm the finance director. I've been the finance director here for Door County for 3 years. I've been employed with the county in the finance department for just about over 14 years. So in your packet, now what we'll do is go over some of the fun stuff, the financial piece of it. Nothing against Grant and Jill, but this is the fun stuff that I think it is. So in your packet on page 63, we're going to go over the 2022 levy limit calculation. Just before I go over that, I'd just like to give you a brief definition as to what the levy limit is. The levy limit provides the maximum amount a town, village, city, and county may implement as a property tax levy on parcels. So with that, as part of our budget, we have to go over through a calculation that we have to do to determine what is the maximum amount that the county can levy per that particular budget. So on page 63, I'll just kind of go through this. The first number up there, the 24,900,000, that is the number we start with from the previous levy. Every year, the state of the Wisconsin Department of Revenue comes out with a net new construction. That is the amount that we can increase our levy limit from prior year. So in 2022, actually it says for 2021, but this is for the 2022 budget, the amount that we could increase our levy was 1.203%, which equates to just a little over 300,000. As you can see then, we have amount of just a little over 25 million. We have to, the state of Wisconsin provides us with a personal property tax that we have to minus out from our levy limit calculation, which comes out to the 25,217,000. Then we also add what we consider, which is considered outside the levy limit, and that is our ambulance services, which is our EMS service, which is a 3.9. Our bridge aid, which is bridge aid and culvert aid for towns, that's 25,000. Then we also add into our debt service, which is our loan that we have. That would be for the ADRC Community Center and Central Station for the EMS, which is the 787. So our maximum, our levy limit for the 2022 budget was that 29,973,000. That is the calculation, how we come up with that levy limit. Any questions on that before I move on? Then the bottom piece is with basically our proposed budget, what we proposed. So with the levy limit, which was the 25,217,000, the 3.9, which is the ambulance service, the bridge aid, and then our debt service of the 700, and that comes in, says that we utilized our full max amount of our tax levy of the 29,973,000. Now below there, you'll see different the dollar amount. So the 719,000 negative, that is the difference from the levy limit from 2021 to 2022. So that went down by 719,000, and that equates to a decrease of 2.34%. Then we come into, we figure out what is our equalized value per thousand, and this is the county's portion that will be on the tax bill. That equates to $3.56 and blah blah blah, a bunch of decimals, because we have to carry that out. That decreased from 2021 was a decrease of 10.41%. Now, a question is always asked is that if we would increase that equalized value, that $3.56 by 1 penny, what does that equate to our tax levy? And that comes out to about, as you can see, just a little bit of $84,000. Our equalized value for 2021 was the $8,408,000,000 for 2021. Any questions on the calculation of the tax levy? Moving on, then on your packet that is on page 64 and 65 this is a summary of the budget of what I just kind of went over. This summarizes the 2022 adopted budget by fund and department. As you can see on here, it lists also the adopted budget for 2020, 21, and 2022. Then if you see on page 65, you go towards the bottom there in the orange there, you'll see that the levy amount, the tax levy of the 29,973,000. And then the numbers below that is just the same numbers I just gave you on the tax levy limit calculation. So this is just a summary that you'll see coming up because we are starting the budget process, believe it or not, for 2023. So you'll see this once it comes to. Any questions on that? Moving on to page 66. This is what we call our capital improvement plan. As you see what's in the packet here, these are the projects that were approved for the 2022 budget. Now the KIP, as what I call it, capital improvement plan, this is the first step of the budget process. This is a 5-year plan of capital projects that have a cost of $50,000 or more. This comes to the county board for approval in July. Now on this worksheet you'll see, going over on this worksheet, is that you'll see, going to the top is the project numbers. This is just an internal number that we used in the finance department. Then you have the project name, and this is a listing of all the funding sources where the funds are coming for these particular projects. You'll see that there will be some that might come from the federal government, from state. Then we also have tax levy. We have other can be from KIP carryover from prior years or from other different reserves. And then you'll see the total for the particular project. Then this is listed by department. You have airport, their projects that they have for 2022. You have highway, facilities, and parks. You also see on there that there are some projects that are listed in red. These are, as I said, that the KIP is a planning document, so we can kind of see what the various different capital projects that are coming forward in the budget for the next 5 years. So right now, we are starting with the 2023 through 2027 capital projects right now. We're in that process right now. And that's the first phase of the budget. But as it gets approved for adoption in county board, again, this is just a planning document. Projects can change. Either we add or delete projects through the budget process all the way up until November. And this is what you're seeing with the red changes. These were changes that were made after the capital improvement plan was adopted by county board in July. And so, for instance, you'll see in highway, we added a couple new road projects. And then facilities and parks, we moved, instead of splitting out the elevator, we decided to move that to have that done in 2022 and so forth. So that is what the red, for the red projects are. Then on page 67, towards the bottom, you'll see the total of all the projects, the funding sources. The main one to look at is the levy one, the 4,554,000. That is the amount that was levied for capital projects in 2022. And right below that, you'll see the amount that was the tax levy for 2021's budget. Now, we try to keep the range, usually for capital projects, right around the 4.5 to 4.6 for tax levy purposes, is usually the range that we have. Any questions on that before I move on? All right, the next one, this is another big topic, I think, is the unassigned fund balance. This is on page 67. Before I go on the unassigned fund balance, think of the unassigned fund balance as a savings account for the county. How the funds and how money is distributed into this, into the unassigned fund balance is at the end of the year, we take all the revenues and expenditures, and that difference, if we have more revenues, that flows into the unassigned fund balance. The same thing is if we have more expenditures than revenues, that amount is taken out. So that is how the unassigned fund balance is basically where it gets the balance from. So excess revenues over expenditures, it increases, and then excess expenditures over revenues decreases the unassigned fund balance. Now, what can you use the unassigned fund balance for? Well, the main thing is for non-reoccurring expenditures. So one-time expenditures. For example, capital projects. You can use that for capital projects if you want. These are one-time expenditures. What you don't want to use it for is for operational costs, such as payroll or utilities expenses, okay? Now going on to the actual spreadsheet on page 68. You'll see on top there, the balance from 2020 is the 23 million. You'll see that that is audited. Now, and then you'll go down to the what was approved in 2021 for expenditures, and you'll see the bottom line of at the balance of December 31st, 21 is the 21,971,000. Now, you'll see that that is unaudited. And the reason is that right now we changed that to audited once our audit from our outside, our auditors, our outside vendor completes our audit for 2021. We're currently working on that. This will not get done probably. They come in to do our field audit in May, and sometime in July when is our audit. So then that number will change to be audited. As you can see then, there was nothing so far in 2022 used for the unassigned fund balance. So you'll see that the this is as of March 31st of 2022, that the balance is the 21,971,000. Now, moving on down to the bottom. There's a calculation that we do to figure out what that percentage is of the range. So you take the balance, and then you divide that by the expenditures from the previous that I showed you that require tax levy. This is how you get that 35.69%. Now, back in 2003, in August, a county board passed a resolution stating that the unassigned fund balance range should be between 12% to 15%, meaning that you do not want the unassigned fund balance to get below that 12%. So right now, you see that we're at 35%. So moving down below that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the gray area. So the upper limit, the 15%, the unassigned fund balance could equate to $9.2 million. The lower limit of the 12% is the $7.3 million. Now, if we look at the yellow piece, that is the amount, so the 21 million minus the 9.2 million, saying that you have roughly about 12.7 million available to use to get to that 15%. So any questions on the unassigned fund balance? Benny? Yep.
I understand why and maybe this is just history, I wasn't here in 2003, I understand why a minimum of 12% would be there. Is there a maximum at what point you would not want this much money set aside because it would be used for other things the county may need to do? If we're at 35 from a 12, I'm just trying to, I don't know what the discussion was back then or what
So-
the thought process is, but just wondering about that.
I-
A lot more than 12% now.
Well, correct, that is correct. There was probably a few years ago back that the Finance Committee at one time decided that they looked at this range, the 12 to 15%. They said, well, should we increase that range? Should we make it to 20% or whatever? However, it was decided not to make the change because when you start looking at, if you start increasing that range, you're going to lose the flexibility of when you can use the unassigned fund balance. Now, it's not a bad thing to say that we have 35% in here. One of the things that, and we might have some capital projects in the near future where we might have to go out for bond or basically a loan to fund that particular project. When you go through a bond or loan process, it's just like when you decide to get your personal loan, you have to go out and get a credit rating. Well, the same thing with the county. The county will have to go out if they decide they want to go out for bond or a loan, basically, they go through a credit rating. Now, there's a company, it's more intense than when you do for your personal loan. But one of the things that when they come and they do the credit rating is they look at your unassigned fund balance. And they look at that percentage and say, okay, where are you at for the funding portion of that? And they say, well, you're at 35%, which is a good thing. You know, are you at that close? Are you close to that limit of that 12 to 15%? Well, they might look at that, and what that might do is that might lower your score, and what would happen is possibly increase what our principal or interest that we'd particularly get for that particular bond. So to answer your question, I mean, there really hasn't been a look at as to, okay, what percentage are we going to say, are we going to start looking down at this and start trending down? Just for example, I was just doing some little calculation. If we would take $1 million from right now from this current balance, that would reduce that percentage by 1.63%. Or another $2 million would be 3.25%. So it's not fast, and by all means, am I not saying don't use it, because it's up to the board and finance committee and Ken to determine when what they want to utilize it for. Does that Anything to add?
Nope, that's good.
Okay. Any other questions regarding the unassigned fund balance? Okay. Moving on to page 69. This is a report that I provide to the Finance Committee on a monthly basis. This is the 0.5% the county receives on a monthly basis. What you'll see right now, I know it's a little hard on this, on the piece of paper, the graph that I have, but this goes back to 2006. And some of the numbers you should be able to see, again, it's hard on this paper, but are bolded. And what that means is that that is the highest amount for that particular month of sales tax that was collected going back to 2006. 2021, you can see that we received a total of a little over 5.6 million. We budgeted, in our budget for sales tax, we budgeted $3,750,000, which equates to that we exceeded that budget by a little over $1.8 million. What that means is that we can utilize that 1.8 million when we start working on the 2023 budget, is we utilize that as a revenue already on for our 2023 budget. It's not, this money is not set for, okay, for this or that, it's for the overall overall budget for the county. It's not saying we're gonna set aside for, do it for this. It helps offset the budget for when we start looking at 2023. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Any questions on that? You'll just see that as you can look at 2021, that was the highest that we've ever collected going back to 2006. Okay. Moving on to page 70. This is the medical benefit funds. The county is a self-funded plan, and what that means is that as the county, we provide the health benefits directly to the employees. Instead of if you're a fully insured plan, where an employer purchases insurance or health coverage from an insurance company. So with that, this is we have a separate fund for the medical benefit funds. Kelly is going to go into detail with regarding the plan itself. But here's the fund where all the medical claims for the employees and also the premiums that we charge for the employee and the employer portion comes into this particular fund. So you look at it as of the end of March, we're at a little over $6 million for the fund itself. We have a consultant, as USI is our consultant to help us administer with our health plan. They recommend that this target balance or this fund be at 5.2 million. So we're exceeding that right now. Any questions on the medical fund? Moving on to page 71 is our workers' comp fund. This is where we pay our, at the beginning of the year, we pay our premium for our workers' comp. This covers for any employees that will happen to get injured on the job. We pay our premium right away at the beginning of the year. For 2022, our premium was $419,580. As you see right now, there's a particular loss in our revenues. How this fund is determined on after every pay period. Departments are charged a workers' comp rate based on what type of job their employees do. And every pay period, this will, the revenues come in from each department that we charge. And so right now, you'll see that it's a loss and our revenues is at $106,000, but the revenues will keep on going up throughout the year. And then because we already paid the premium all the way up front at the beginning. So you'll see that, this is another report that I provide to the Finance Committee, that this number will go up as the year goes on. Any questions on that? No, no. So going back, that's a good question. Going back to that, also on the workers' comp, you'll notice that under the notes, there's a workers' compensation modification rate. What that is that the insurance company that we have with Wisconsin County Mutual, they'll go back and they look every year, they'll look back at 3 years' history of our claims, okay? And that will be determined as to what our modification rate factor is, basically what we get charged for our workers' comp. As you can see, then in 2021, we were at 0.77. In 2020, it was at 0.68. And so that is what the insurance company looks at. No, but to answer your question, we don't have a reserve for any outstanding claims at all like that. All right, moving on to the in your packet on page 72. This is, as I said a little earlier, the schedule for the 2023 budget. This shows you when items are distributed to various departments, when things are due back to the finance department, and when things are first reviewed and sent on to the oversight committees and to the finance committee and then approved at county board. So this shows you the budget schedule for 2023. Right now, we're in that first stage with the KIP. That just got sent out on April 4th. That is due back to me on May 13th. And it'll be coming to finance and then go to county board. So this is just the schedule of the 2023 budget. The last thing I'd like to talk about before I pass it on is the Arpa funds. On March 11th, 2021, the American Rescue Plan Act was signed into law. The Door County received a portion of $5,374,185. We received in 2021 the first half. We should be receiving the second half, I'm guessing sometime this summer. This is a summary sheet of, I put together that there was a resolution that was passed to allocate the funds that Door County received to the various different categories. The first one you'll see is the affordable housing. 1.2 million was allocated for that. So far, what was approved by what was used so far is about the 700,000, leaving a balance of 500,000 left. Broadband was allocated 1 million. With the broadband coordinator position, we're utilizing 152,000 for this year, leaving 848,000. The next category is environmental. This is allocated 800,000. So far, 78,800 was approved this year. Then we have the health and human services of the 1.2 million. And then the last category is public health, protection and safety, which was allocated $674,185. And then we also have last category, which we had was a reserve just in case a certain project went over budget. So this just gives you a little synopsis of the ARPA funds and the allocation. Any questions? Oh, you're welcome.
All right. Would you guys like to take a little bit of a break? Okay, why don't we take
too much excitement.
10:15. Why don't we take a 10-minute break? We'll come back at 10:15. Okay, we are back in session. We're going to continue on with our orientation. So we're going to cover human resources next. So I'll introduce Kelly Hendy. She's our HR director, and she will go through some material for you. So Kelly, if you would.
Good morning. Nope, now it is. Thank you. So my name is Kelly Hendy, Human Resources Director for about 14 and a half years now with the county. Can say I love every day of my job and appreciate being here today and giving you a really broad, high-level overview of a few of the areas that are apply to all employees here. So HR is really the driver of the information that you're gonna hear today that applies to all the employees in this organization. It starts on page 75. We have 2 represented units that are still negotiating their wages and parts of their contract. And then the rest of our workforce is made up of general municipal employees and elected officials. On page 75, you have the wage schedule for our emergency services employees. Also on this page at the top, you can find the different positions that this applies to. So emergency services is mainly represented employees, with the management and the billing specialist are general municipal employees. On page 76, you have the wage schedule for the Deputy Sheriff's Association. At the top, you can review the different positions that the wage schedule applies to, and much like emergency services, the management at the sheriff's office is made up of general municipal employees, which acronyms we use all the time are GMEs. Okay? Any questions on those 2 wage schedules? Okay. Next, you'll find the Base Compensation Administrative Guide. This was adopted back in 2015. We've been moving forward quite quickly with our compensation structure and how we do different things. So this is going to get updated so it applies to today. In this guide, there's a lot of information that's very helpful. You are given an outline of what our job descriptions are made up of, at the philosophy of the county, which is that they wanted to not lead the market or lag the market, but meet the market. So all of these terms I'll go over a little bit more, and you'll be hearing more of as we update this guide. On page 83 of this guide is the salary range structure. So our overall compensation structure that's made for the GMEs, our general municipal employees, is got a min or a base wage, then it's got a midpoint and a max. And it's an open range plan. So this guide talks about steps. Those were just removed in 2021. So an open range plan. On page 85 and 84 and 85, it talks about the pay adjustments and the different types of how people or employees move along in the pay structure, which goes to the performance evaluation process that the county has adopted. On page 87, and I am going quite quickly, if you have questions, please stop me. I'm going to invite all of you, if you have questions on the compensation. It can be very complicated. Just, my office door is always open. Come up, see me. I'll be happy to go through it. On page 87, trending or aging or COLA, that's often referred to and will come up in the budget process because we will look at our compensation structure and determine what the market's driving at that point and what it should be aged. So that takes the entire compensation structure and moves it up the percent that is adopted. When we move that structure, all the employees that we have sprinkled out through that structure also need to move with it. So everybody moves at different percentages in that structure. Then there's the pay performance. That is on the next few pages, which I'll get to, but those different percentages that people can obtain through their performance evaluation are adopted each year in the budget process as well. If you flip to page 90, you will see the layout of our compensation structure. It's alphabetized backwards on purpose. So it starts with grade U being the highest, and each of the positions is allocated to a different alphabet number. This structure and our compensation program is overseen by Carlson Detman. Carlson Detman has been working with the county since about 2016, when they were hired to review our plan. They've worked very closely with us on each of our positions, the position descriptions, the compensation structure, its layout, and the pay grades that those positions reside in. And each year, we consult with them to make sure that we are staying equitable within all of our wages and market-driven. Last year in 2021, we did what we call a market review. That was looking at specific positions, what's driving everything. As a result of that market review, the county board adopted to go to the open range structure and to go to the 60th percentile, meaning that we're a little bit above that midpoint that we want to stay focused and make sure our wages remain competitive. Okay? Any questions on the compensation structure itself? And then on page 100, you have the performance okay.
Is there a duplicate in the packet, or what is the difference between page 90 and page 95, you know, where it seems to start the outline of the department and the wage? Is there, what's the significance of those? Are they the same, or are they different, or? Oh, it's a duplicate. Okay, okay. All right.
Okay, so on page 100, you have the performance incentives. So each year, we evaluate the compensation structure and the percentages that are in this performance evaluation process. And the top is providing you with the different definitions, the meets, above requirements, et cetera, and the percent that equates to that. And then in the bottom, it gives you a brief definition of what those look like. Any questions on that? Okay. On page 101, we have a sample of the cost of an employee. So when we look at an employee, we think salary and wages, but we have to include all of the benefits. So what the sample on page 101 and 102 provides you are just two random samples and what it looks like, and the end cost about 2/3 of the way down the page. It'll give you the total annual compensation. So while the wage might reflect 73,000, when you add in the benefits, it can equal 113,000. So the two samples are different. One is an exempt person and one is non-exempt. So you'll hear a lot about positions and wages when we go through the budget process, and this is kind of helpful just to keep in mind. And last page. Oh.
Statement, salary and benefit statement, the employee gets this on an annual basis, or how, annually? Thank you.
On the last page, as Steve mentioned, we are self-funded for our health insurance. So this diagram is just to kind of give you a broad overview of the different vendors that we work with to make sure that our health plan is viable, we can sustain it, because being self-insured means that all the claims and everything come back to the county to pay. They're not paid by someone else. So Auxient is our third-party administrator. They process our claims, okay? So when someone goes to the doctor, their claim goes through Auxient, then it'll float through HPS and back to the employee with an explanation of benefits. So the next one is your RX CVS Caremark. They're our pharmaceutical vendor. The pharmacy part of our health plan they're tied together. So the pharmacy and the health plan are tied together. I didn't say that well. And then health payment systems is another element that comes into our health plan overall to help save us money. So we get more discounts by working through HPS. The next piece of that is WellWorks. They're our wellness provider. So we have a wellness program so an employee can participate in that program, and that helps them reduce their overall premium contribution to their health insurance if they so take it. Then we have Delta Dental that used to reside in the health plan. We extracted that back in 2016, and Delta has been very good for the county. We haven't seen increases for several years with our dental, so it's pretty minimal as far as the benefits concerned, but it's a good benefit, and that's of no cost to employees unless they're part-time, then it's prorated. And then we have Aurora, they're our EAP, Employee Assistant Program provider, and they work with us if we have employees through a supervisory referral or if they want to choose to use it on their own. So that's our EAP provider. And that's just an org chart to kind of help you keep it straight when we start talking about health insurance, because that gets also very complicated. Okay, I'm done. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Kelly. So we will now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the election of the chairperson. So I will help and Jill will explain the rules. Want to go up there?
Yeah. All right, your first slip you're gonna get is for nominating for chairperson of the board. I was thinking about deviating from order, but I'll just follow.
So from an order perspective, do you need to nominate somebody? Do we all nominate someone? Is that the process? Everyone nominates someone?
You can. Or not. Just like when you go to the voting booth, you do not have to vote in a specific race.
I'll just take them face down.
Doesn't matter. No signing this one. It's a real vote. It's a true vote. I'm just enjoying that Ken is my assistant today.
Isn't he every day? I'm the good looking one for the show.
Oh, that was, I know that salad.
All right, 3 people are nominated. Ken Fisher, David Inigo, and David Lino. So we will go to the voting ballot.
Madam Clerk, you can withdraw my name from that, please.
All right. All right, so Supervisor Fisher has withdrawn his name, so the vote will be either Supervisor David Inigo or Supervisor David Lino. All right, by a vote of 18 for Lino and 3 for Inigo, your new chair for your 2022-2024 term is Supervisor David Lino. Do you want us to do vice chair right away while you sit there?
Yep, we'll do the votes first.
All right, nominating for vice chair of the board.
You could have these broken out in sets of 7.
Listen, listen. You have to work once in a while.
Did you have to buy an entire packet of code at least once?
Oh, you ain't seen nothing. Look at that. Look at that.
I mean, they're very festive.
Thank you. Springtime.
Happy, you know?
Okay, nominations for vice chair of the board, David Engelbert, Supervisor Ken Fisher, and Supervisor Alexis Heim Peter. So this is your voting ballot. All right, Supervisor Heim Peter has withdrawn. So you are voting for vice chair of the board between Supervisor David Engelbert and Supervisor Ken Fisher.
Have to almost cross my eyes to find the names, just so I know what's what.
right, on a vote of 16-5, Supervisor David Engelbert has received the majority of votes and is elected your vice chair. We'll rearrange seating now. Giving up the helm, shoot.
I mean, you can still yell at people if you'd like.
I can use the gavel yet? Is that what you're
Look
saying?
at all them paper, you didn't get a chance to show.
No. Well, you never know. You never know.
So just for reference on the agenda, we're actually going to drop down to the resolutions. We need to consider resolutions 31, 32, and 33 because those affect the rules of order. So we're going to go down to 16 and cover those first three resolutions, and then we'll go back up to 9 in the agenda. So
So we start with.
started right here. Oh, yeah, you can, oh yeah, we probably should do that.
Right.
Yep.
What?
Yeah, start here.
Oh, that might have been a good idea. There we go.
Okay, presentation of the agenda. We're not live yet. There we go. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, motion and second by voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Correspondence. None noted in the packet. Public comment.
For public comment, if someone would like to speak online, you can raise your hand. You'll be recognized and given the floor. Likewise, those if you called in, you can also hit *9. I will ask twice if there's anyone who'd like to speak. For the first time, is there anyone who'd like to speak? For the second time, is there anyone who'd like to speak? Nope.
Anybody in the room? No. No supervisor's response. County administrator?
No, sorry. Just because of the organizational meeting, I have no formal report. That'll be next week for our regular meeting, so we can continue on.
Okay, what, same thing with COVID?
Yep.
Item 16, resolutions. Resolution 2022-31, organizational structure of boards, commissions, and committees. What? David Engelbert?
Structure. I believe this was all reviewed by the admin committee. You can see the existing members from a week ago, and they brought this forward.
So a motion and a second. Ken, do you want to grant any explanations?
Yep. Just trying to get to the right page. So again, now we're on, just so we're catching up, we're on page 35 of your packet. So 35 is actually the resolution that is discussing or presenting the structure of the organization in terms of how we operate. So the main item you want to look at is then actually referring to the attachment, which is on page 36. So I'm going to give kudos to Lori. We put together an updated chart so it's a little bit clearer. So what you'll see now is all of our committees on one page. So it's very clear in terms of what we have. Across the top is what we consider our standing committees. And why we call them standing committees is we have, those are committees that actually have a department that actually reports to that committee. So again, you'll see our standing committees are administrative with the assigned departments below. The finance committee, and I'll go through, it shows the recommended size of the committee. So the administrative committee is made up of 7 individuals. The finance committee will be made up of 7 individuals with departments listed below. Health and Human Services Board is made up of 9 individuals. 5 of those are county board, and 4 others are based off the required representation of their appointments. Then we have Highway and Facilities is a 7-member board made up of the departments listed below. Judiciary, Public Safety, again 7, and so forth. Resource and Planning, 5. Land Conservation is 7, 6 of those being county board, and 1 appointed position. Then below that, we have all of our other, what we consider statutory, ad hoc, and other committees. And again, we have those all listed in alphabetical order. And again, we have it broken down by their total numbers of that's sitting on the board. I will make one clarification on that because I when we were putting it together, I missed it. So like, for example, the Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission is actually made up of multiple representation from different counties. We have 1 member that's appointed, and 1 member is a county board official. Same thing with, for example, on economic development, the DC EDC board, there's actually a board of 9, but our appointment's 1 individual, and that 1 individual is a county board member. So I apologize for that discrepancy, but I'm giving you the idea of the number of members in terms of what we're doing as far as the appointments. Again, the CB shows you the county board appointments for that. The only thing that did come out as a change, which we would need an amendment from the floor, it was recommended that the WCA Ambassador Program be actually composed of 2 individuals rather than 1. This for history for the county board, and for those that are new, the WCA Ambassador Program, it is a program that is actually put together by the Wisconsin Counties Association. They are the group that, well, again, they're a group that represents all the counties down in Madison. And what the Ambassador Program does is WCA, on behalf of the county, works on different legislative issues for us. And what they do each year is they try to put together a legislative agenda. And what they have done in the past is they invited to have a representative to be a part of what they call the WCA Ambassador Group. So that individual or individuals would go down, or they participate in calls, or they go down to Madison and they'd actually go and talk with legislators on certain types of legislation. It started out where the WCA requested 1 individual. We at one time appointed up to 3 individuals. We had 2 from our legislative committee and 1 was our vice chair. When we went through all of our process, we went from the 3 down to 1 because the legislative matters are being assigned directly to the committees. But just through the discussions at the admin committee and also with the chair, we recommended that that be brought back up to 2 individuals. In terms of that, and the only other, I guess, item in terms of the rules, the way we discussed is that we had down at one point in time that the administrative committee was made up of the chairs of the other committees. Based off the discussion at admin, we're recommending that this be just straight appointments. And the main reason why we went this with straight appointments now versus being the chairs is that if you recall, with this new structure, there's probably 2 main reasons. One is we're trying to make sure we ensure the balance of the appointments for all the county board members as far as their participation. And also what it does do is it allows us also to provide more diversity in terms of the representation on both the admin finance committees in terms of how we're putting those committees together. So instead of them requiring to be the chairs, it allows us to do the appointments and then build better balance in terms of representation on those 2 committees. Otherwise, it becomes too one-sided in terms of how the committees put together, both in terms of potential representation, but also we do look at gender as well in terms of trying to make sure we have a balance that way. So when we account for all those different types of factors, we found that it's more effective to make those as an appointment versus the chairs themselves. So those were the recommendations that came out of, again, from the administrative committee. Again, there's a motion on the floor, and it's up to the board to decide whether or not they want WCA to be at 2, but that'd have to be a motion on the floor in terms of amended.
Anybody care to make that motion to amend the WCA Ambassador Program from 1 to 2?
I'll second if he wants to, whatever. I'll make that motion to
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Alexis.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Alexis?
Sorry, I don't have a question on the amendment, sorry.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Okay, since it's rules of orders, do we need to go to the voter board?
You can go to the board.
Let's do that.
Okay,
Yep.
let's, 1 second here. Okay, all right, you ready?
Mhm.
Use your tablet, please.
It's just a pass by voice.
Can't say pass by phone.
That's what it says. Pass by voice vote.
This is on the last vote.
It's based off of what. Yeah, I mean, I don't care what you think it says, that's what it says.
Yeah, we were lying earlier too, so.
What'd you do with it?
It's a totally
I looked at it.
It's all up to you.
You should be able to.
You're the final one.
That is passed on a vote of 19 yes, 2 no. Thank you.
So now you're back to the original motion as amended.
Okay, so no other amendments need to be made?
Right, so, so right now, the way it stands, the motion that's on the floor is for adopting this chart as amended, so with the WCA ambassador at 2. So now you can discuss the motion that is, I'm kind of being deliberate, just so everyone can kind of get up to speed, so I'm not, hopefully not being rude, I'm just trying to talk everyone through. So the motion that's on the floor is the original motion now of this chart being adopted, along with the WCA being changed to 2 members. And now this is on the floor for discussion or to vote.
Alexis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand that so of the current committees from last term, legislative and sustainability are being incorporated into the new responsibilities for the new structure. I'm wondering about risk and insurance in the negotiating committee. I was expecting to see those under like ad hoc or other, because I understand that they only meet once a term or so. So I was just curious how those, the work that those 2 committees are going to be incorporated into the new structure.
Those, oops, sorry, both of those committees are in essence got within the administrative committee for future functions, because they were in some ways subsets of that committee as well. So we're just bringing it right to admin and having their review for that.
Is that Vanessa?
Nope, that was motion in second.
Okay. Anybody else? Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm debating with myself about how much of a contrarian to be today. It's not how I wanted to wake up in the morning. I'm a little concerned. This is a lot of change at once. Not only are we shifting to salaried, but we also are doing all this committee consolidation. And I guess maybe my main thing is worrying about the progress we've made with the Sustainability Committee and the Green Tier effort. And I guess I'm a little concerned that might, kind of fade into the background, so to speak. I guess I also, I'm not trying to speak for other people, but I kind of also don't think it's fair with new members coming in to have them vote on something that, I guess I wish this was either decided beforehand, or I know it's been suggested that maybe we wait and, wait on this till November. I guess I'm really on the fence on this. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Just 2 comments on that. I think both from a legislative and sustainability standpoint, we think those are definitely high priorities as far as the organization. And I also concur that we need to make sure that they're also part of our mental minds in terms of thinking. And that's one of the things you'll see when we get to the rules that we actually added in, that'll be part of every committee's agenda going forward. So it's actually part of our standing operating procedures rather than being segregated. So I'm hoping that accomplishes that. Obviously, there's going to be some core functions of that work as far as the green tier that I think falls within the facilities and parks or the highway and facilities committee in terms of making sure some of that core work is done. But again, I think overall, it'll be part of all the committee structures for that. Second comment, I know, again, for the new people coming in, they haven't experienced either one, so it's kind of hard to vote on which way to go from that standpoint. But again, the way our rules are set up, we can actually put this in place. And again, if it does not work, we can change it back in November. So I guess from what we've experienced in terms of other areas where we consolidated or optimized our operations, I do think it's something that will be successful.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it can be changed anytime. Doesn't have to wait till November.
Well, correct.
At any meeting, if there was a majority,
Yeah,
that
can be
went,
changed by majority vote.
could
By
change the
majority.
rules of order, right? So,
Correct.
right. So if it doesn't work,
We can change it back.
we can change it back. Right.
Vinny? Vinny?
Go ahead. Vinny?
Thank you. Just a question of, it is a new concept to kind of wrap our minds around for people who have been on the board before, and just seeing sort of a balance of power. I appreciate there being positions on the administrative committee that are not just the chair. I think that was a good idea. And I guess I'm just curious to know if that's being considered, that at least a member from each of the other committees will be on either finance or administrative, since a lot of the major decisions come from those committees and go through finance and administrative, just so there's some representation, since there is so much consolidating. Yes. Yeah.
Anybody else? If not, we'll go to the voter board. That's passed by a vote of 18 yes and 3 no. Thank you. Resolution 2022-32, Door County Highway Committee, 83.015 Wisconsin statutes.
Okay, just for explanation before we take motions, as part of the recommendations that we were discussed at County Board prior, the next two resolutions are now just cleanup in terms of the chart you just adopted. There's two cleanup items. One is for what we're considering the Highway Committee. Obviously, we're a former resolution showing that as part of the Highway and Facilities Committee, but then we're also showing that because we are home rule, that instead of following what's in the statutes in terms of those being elected, that this is actually an appointed committee, and this is the resolution for that. And then just to jump ahead, the same is gonna be for the next resolution in terms of the cleanup for the UW extension, in terms of how that's referred and how that's now with the LCC committee. But the first one, obviously, is your consideration is to 2232.
Roy, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve resolution 2022-32, which is, the last says, is to resolve that we go to 7 members on the Highways and Facilities Committee.
Okay, thank you. We have a second from Joel. Any discussion? Bud?
Am I up?
You're up.
In looking at,
You're on.
am I good?
Yep.
I'm looking at the resolution and the distribution of representatives on that committee. It seems to me, as I monitored what's going on in the last couple months, that a more equitable distribution of the members would, instead of the way it's set up, would be, in my mind, 2 from the north, 1 from the city, 2 from the south, and 2 at large. My reasoning here is that there would be representation from the districts where the county highway and parks department does their actual work and most of the facilities are located. The representatives would be more throughout the county, getting more representation from the rural areas and the villages that are spread out. It would, over the years, if it stayed 2-1-2, it would be a more stable representation over the years, where you would have the 2 people from the north, 2 from the south, 1 from the city. You would still have your 2 at-large people for an area that might need more representation, maybe the city wants to jump in with another one, you would still have your two at-large, as I say, anywhere in the county, and not meant to take anything away from the city here, but just looking at a more equitable and stable distribution over the years on the committee.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we will go to the voter board.
Can I make a motion to amend?
Yes, you can, yep.
Yep, you could.
Yep.
I would move to amend this resolution to have a distribution of representatives of 2 from the north, 1 from the city, 2 from the south, and 2 at large.
Any discussion, questions on it? From my vantage point, as the chair, the intention was to keep, the highway committee in the past was always the 1 north, 1 south, 1 city, and then 2 at large, with no more than 2 in one particular area, so you couldn't end up with 3 at large south, for instance. With the addition of adding the Parks Committee, Facilities Committee within the highway together, from my perspective, it gives us an ability to appoint people that also have that background and not necessarily keep them just related to highway as far as geographical dispersion. You'd still keep your 1 north, 1 south, the city, and have basically 2 at large from the highway side of it, but not tie down the other 2 people as not being able to be assigned from a particular area. That's just my thought on it. But. Anybody else? David?
Yes, thank you. I agree with what you just said, Dave, but I do also see Mr. Combs' point that sometimes those from the rural area are more involved with the local town boards, and we like to, being on that highway committee, I like to encourage those town boards to utilize the highway department. And sometimes we are more familiar with even the parks, like, you know, I'm more familiar with Sugar Creek or Sugarware's Dock than I am the parks up north, and so.
Sure.
But I think that can be dealt with appointments as well too, so.
Okay. Nobody else, right? Nobody else? Okay, we will go to the voter board. We're voting on the amendment.
That the committee would be composed of 2 from the north, 1 from the city, 2 from the south, and 2 at large.
Okay, so that motion has passed on a vote of 11 to 10. Thank you. Okay, so the amendment
has passed.
Right.
So now you're back to the, this procedurally, now you're back to the regular resolution of this on it, but now where it says whereas for 11 through lines 15, now that's now been amended and approved, where it's gonna be 2 from the north, 1 from the city, 2 from the south, and 2 at large. So now that is the motion on the floor, and that's what you're either discussing or voting on right now.
Okay. All right, so any questions or any other discussion on that motion as amended? Okay, we'll go to the voter board. That is passed with a vote of 20 yes, 1 no. Thank you. Resolution 2022-33, Door County Committee on Agriculture and Extension Education, 59.56 sub 3 sub B, Wisconsin statutes. We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion? Okay, we'll go to the voter board. That's passed on a vote of 21 yes, 0 no. Thank you. Now we recess, right?
No rules, yep.
So,
Go the rules and then we'll do recess.
okay. So now we're gonna go back up to item 9, review, revise, and adopt the rules of order.
Okay, so this actually now goes back to page 2 of your packet. And it goes through all the way until, actually page 34. And normally what we try to do, depending on the size of the packet, is we try to show you what we're changing in terms of the edits. So you'll see those a lot of times in red, where we're striking something out, and then the addition in blue. And I don't know if you'd like me to go through page by page, just a quick overview,
Well,
or?
I think between you and Grant, you should explain basically why a lot of these wholesale changes were due to the salary
Yep.
change, et
Yep.
cetera. Right.
Yeah, we'll do the high overview, quick one, and then, we can go from there. I don't know, Grant, do you wanna do it, or should I go, or?
You wanna start?
Sure, I'll start it. So, just on page 1, make it gender neutral at the very top, but then again, we revised at the bottom, just in terms of, because we just adopted the new appointment for the highway committee, we took out that portion in terms of the election for the highway committee. Turning the page, just an update to our regular meeting, there was no longer per diem code. And we updated some of the wording in regards to the voucher claims and bills of how those are being provided to the committees. On page 4, under section 13, our rules that we've been practicing is you're allowed to speak 3 times at a matter. In the rules, it said twice, so we're updating that to being able to speak 3 times on an item. Again, for those that are new, what that means is that when there's an item on the floor, you're allowed to speak on that item for 3 times. And then once you get to that 3rd time, it's up to the chair whether or not they would allow you to speak again in that matter. Otherwise, according to the rules, you'd be done speaking on that item that's on the floor. Not for the whole meeting, just on that item that's on the floor. Page 5, there's no listed change. Page 6, under item 27, is this again in terms of addressing the public? What we did is there were some clarification items that we wanted to include in terms of how people can address the county board. In item E, as an addition, and in item G1, we're just adding the germane matters in terms of how we're taking public comment. Going to page 7, again, that's cleanup in terms of the highway committee, in terms of the elections. Under item 32, we just added again a item for our civility and decorum. Item 34 is a cleanup. We usually traditionally don't call them executive, we call them closed sessions. So we are changing that all to closed sessions, and also Grant has, I guess, clarified some of the wording in terms of Wisconsin open meetings law and some of the statutes. That proceeds all the way then on to page 8 as far as the corrections. And that would be all of the proposed changes for what they call the rules of order. So I'll take questions on that first part.
Bob?
So just going back to page 6, they added, it's as letter E, but there's already a letter E, so I'm not sure, it's probably a Scrivener's thing.
Oh, yes.
So.
Yeah, we'll fix the, we'll fix the order.
Which E?
Yeah. And
Well,
before
yeah,
D.
yeah, we can correct that. Thank you.
He was just checking to see how sharp you were this morning.
Yep.
Roy?
Thank you. Item number 11, vouchers, claims, and bills. It hasn't been that long ago when the department had brought into a committee meeting a huge stack of bills to be paid, and so the Oversight Committee then approved payment of bills. That delayed the payment of bills to the vendors. So as a board, the boards approved having the list of invoices at each committee meeting. This looks like it's going to be, the invoices are, or a list of the invoices are going to go to the county clerk, signed by the county board chairperson, and then locked away. Doesn't look like there's going to be a chance for a committee to review the vouchers anymore.
What we're trying to do is that all of the vouchers will be coming directly to the county board. And then once you get those monthly, if you have a question on those definitely can come back to the committee, but it has not been done consistently across the boards for all the committees in terms of them approving or going through the vouchers. So what we're trying to do is, in talking with Steve, we're trying to clean up what we've been doing in terms of our practice. So again, what we're proposing to do is that we have all the vouchers just based on how they run them. We'll run all the vouchers. We'll post them like we other reports that are available for the county board each month. But they'll be, I guess, as part of the county board agenda. Then if there's a question, you can always put down or have a question on the vouchers at the committee level, but there's no requirement to approve them because, again, we're already approving those because it's part of the budget process. Those are approved that way. So it's I know some committees had it as a regular practice. Most of the other committees did not. I can say that across the board. We have not done that consistently across the board.
And we have followed this procedure for the last 2 years.
We've followed it for more than 2 years.
Like 4.
Yep.
So you already are getting the list of vouchers at this meeting?
Yep.
You get it in 3 ways. There are 3 different things are posted. Your main packet, any special reports, and then the voucher listing. You've been getting that for years. That is not a changed process.
And what we get is
On the
Jill,
end of this.
Jill gets a packet of they're all paid invoices in a packet, and then the chair comes in periodically during the month and signs off additionally on those paid invoices that they've been reviewed.
But
So
the voices aren't in the agenda packet. They're separate that we're getting right now. So we have to go in and look at it. And what you're suggesting, when we look at invoices from a particular committee, you would only have about 9 pages. So when you see the county agenda and the county invoices, you're looking at a heck of a lot of pages of invoices to review. And since we're not familiar with the various committees, that's why we don't discuss those other committee invoices, because we're not familiar with them. If you're on the safety committee, you know the money is being spent by the safety committee. I think this is an error to have expect supervisors to look at 50, 60 pages of invoices every month.
Well, the report we can group by department yet. So I'll work with Steve and we can still group the report. So if you're a committee chair or interested in looking at a certain area of invoices for that, it'd still be, we could break it down by department. So that way you can still find your department and still look through the invoices. So that we can do, so that way you're not looking through 100 pages of invoices. You can actually sort them by department and have them available that way so you can view them.
There's not 100 pages.
No, I know, I'm just.
15.
Right.
15
50.
15, 1, 5.
on average.
Right.
No, more.
Vinnie?
Thank you. I had a question on page 6 under the blue E, which will change to a different letter. Just clarifying, and maybe it's helpful for new board members as well, is this says, if a member of the public raises a subject that does not appear on the meeting agenda, discussion of the subject will be limited, and so forth. So I'm just clarifying that means the person from the public would still have 3 minutes to speak, and the limiting part would be about the discussion in a supervisor's response and any action, which is stated above, but it's not that the person speaking would be cut off at 10 seconds or unless it falls under any of these other rules of inappropriate or, yeah.
That is correct. Your
Okay,
interpretation
thank
is
you.
correct. Okay, so let's then go on to the next section, which is, it starts on page 10. So this is the rules of order. Now this again actually this will be broken up into two parts. So on page 10 actually refers to how the compensation works for the county board. And this was just left in blue. This was already adopted, but we left this in blue just because it stands out in terms of, especially for the new members, this is our new compensation. For you, it's your compensation. It's not new to you, but it's what was adopted in terms of how we change our compensation for the county boards and how we conduct our business. So there's really no changes. Just wanted to show that to you in blue, that those was part of the update. If you go to page 11, the one thing that we did have just in terms of this clarification is we still have non-members that are also serving on committees that, if they so choose, can select compensation. So again, that's just in there. I believe there were some updates just in the wording, just so it's clear in terms of how they're tracking their expenses. On page 12, those items are then stricken because that's our old compensation. And that takes you through the end of that section, which is for the rules of orders and organization of all subunits. Are there any questions on that section?
Yes. Dave Engelbert?
Yes, I guess just perhaps for some clarification to me, I understand that this is pretty much the reimbursements the way they've been, but because of the $1,500 allotment per supervisor, it didn't seem real clear that when we're paid reimbursement for our mileage to our committee meetings that we'll be assigned to, that does not come out of that 1,500, am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, but this doesn't really, I don't think, explain it that way.
Sure, so we could actually just explain that. So, and that's good for the members. So when we get to the training part, you'll see that we have a expense log that we do, but also as part of the rules. So for the new members or everyone, we have what's set up as a salary structure. So you'll be paid on a monthly basis, and you're paid on a monthly basis for what we consider your standard duties, which is really the committee meetings, and your work related to talking to constituents and county board. So that's your core duties and responsibilities, and that's what you get your salary for. We also have allocated, and when you do those, when you do business related to that, so when you attend a committee meeting or attend county board, you are allowed to put down your mileage, and you'll claim that as a reimbursable, and that does not count against what we have. Is we have a fund for each supervisor has an allotted amount of $1,500 that they can use for items outside of the core functions. So if you look at the rules, there's one core conference that is covered by the county board, but then other items, should you choose to go to a conference, let's say you're on, I'm gonna pick a committee. Let's do LCC. Let's say Ag and Extension has a conference down in Madison for something that you would like to attend. If you'd like to attend, you can attend that conference. You can pay for your registration, you can pay for your hotel and for your mileage. But when you turn that all in, you'll get reimbursed up to $1,500 within the calendar year. So we track those expenses, your funds to use for those types of activities, but you're allocated only $1,500. Once you go over that amount, you can still attend other functions, but then you're paying for that out of pocket. Although there is an exception where you could actually ask for reimbursement from the county board if you think it's important enough to ask for additional funds. Is that as clear as mud to everyone, or do I need to explain that differently, or Grant?
What I can point out too, and drill down a little bit, if you look at on page 10 of the packet, Roman numeral 4A addresses a $1,500 annual limit. That $1,500 only applies to meal, lodging, and registration. Mileage is separated out and is down in B. And further, it only applies to conferences, conventions, institutes, schools, seminars, training, or workshops. It doesn't apply to committee meetings.
Correct.
So, and mileage is dealt with separate in paragraph B there. The only limitation on mileage is it be related to county board.
Okay.
Alexis?
Thank you. I had a question on 6F under non-members for the Door County Board of Supervisors. I've just always been curious and like clarification for non-members. We have several subunits and other committees that department heads will actually sit on. Is that that time covered under their regular wages, or do they get to claim as non-members as well, like additional compensation for going above and beyond?
If
I
it's
think
a,
that they should, so I'm just clarifying.
it's a county employee, they're, as part of their job, so they're not reimbursed for sitting on the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Joel?
I guess kind of on that same token, the terminology of F, non-members of the Door County Board of Supervisors seems kind of redundant to me because by definition, if you're on the Door County Board of Supervisors, you're a member. So to me, it seems like that should read non-members of the Door County Board of Supervisors committees or subunits, because that's what you're identifying. You're not identifying the board member. It's just a grammatical thing, but
But these are rules of order that apply only to county board subunits. not county board.
I understand that, but it's saying Door County Board of Supervisors there. You can't be a non-member of the Door County Board of Supervisors. If you're on this board, you're a member. Maybe I'm reading into it way too much from a technical perspective, but
Well, but these rules don't apply to the county board. These rules only apply to subunits of the county board. And that subparagraph applies to non-members of the county board who are members of subunits.
okay.
I understand, yeah, I understand and these all flow together. When you look at the rules of order, you have a tendency to not break them up into those that are applicable to the county board and those that are applicable to subunits of the county board.
I think what he's saying though, Grant, is he's saying that, just for clarification, would it be better to say for non-members of the County Board of Supervisors serving on committees or subunits? For that heading.
Just for the title of it, it's just. Members that are not county board members. Right, members that aren't county board members.
They don't like the heading. They don't like the heading title, I guess is what they're saying.
Well, I don't really
Yeah.
care, but it just seems kind of. It's like the first thing that I thought of.
Okay.
Do we want to change it? I mean, I might oppose changing, I was just,
What was your first, you said, you originally called it something?
Non-members of the Door County Board of Supervisors committees or subunits should just be added to it.
Just members that are not.
Or non-county board members, something to that effect. Committee members that aren't board members or, supervisors. I don't know. I mean, I've read this thing so many times, you can't.
I know, it's kind of like we're talking about a negative.
Right. This is a
Right.
negative sentence.
Instead of
to
a,
me.
right,
Yeah,
right.
kind of an oxymoron type thing.
It's always said that, just an FYI,
Well,
for years.
sure it has.
Yeah.
It's in blue now, though.
Yeah.
Then change.
And we want to turn it red.
No more blues going on.
Well, that's not a substantive change. I say that's more of a
Right,
corrective
it's
change.
right, it's
so
not a substantive
I'll
change.
let Grant come up with a better subheading, but I don't think it's a substantive
Okay.
change. It's just a clarification of how we're paying citizen members or non-county board members sitting
we'll
on
come up with
committees.
something.
Yeah.
Members that are not county board supervisors.
Right.
Vinnie?
I have one just curious about for the WCA ambassadors, especially because we added 2. And I don't know if they're running the program the same as they did before COVID, but it involved 3 to 4 trips to Madison to meet with legislators. So is that part of that same budget? Or is that a separately funded piece, so that would not come out of your
It's a
1,500?
committee,
It's a committee, so.
not a
Just a-
conference that you're
Okay,
attending. Right.
thank you.
Go ahead. Bud?
Going back to page 10, 3C, supplementary compensation for hearings, does that include the RPC?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's it? Dave?
Actually, a similar question. Are there any other committees that have public hearings?
Health
and Human Services.
Yep.
And conservation, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Admin does?
Admin does for transportation.
Yeah, maybe I've never been in the meetings when they've done that, okay.
Yeah, they sprinkle all over the place.
Much more limited, of course,
I've been in
RPC,
them.
and RPC and Health and Human Services have the most. but-
Have the most, yeah.
Right. Okay, so we need a motion?
Yeah, just from a procedural standpoint, we'd like to have a motion then accepting these changes. with the ability for Grant to clarify that one heading for us. Yeah.
How about this, subunit members who are not Door County, Door County Board of Supervisors?
There you go. Perfect.
Okay, we have a motion and a second from Nissa and from Joel. Ready to go to the voter board? That's passed by a vote of 20 yes, 1 no. Thank you. Okay, so now, yes. Okay, so now we're going to take a recess. I wish I could tell you how long it's going to be. I would plan on at least 30 minutes. It could potentially go longer, but if you stick around the area, so we can get a hold of you somehow when we come back in after our committees on committees. And I would like Dan Ostad, Elizabeth, Joel, Nancy, Todd, and Dave Engelbert to join me. Okay, 12:45, actually 12:47, we're going back into session. The appointment list was handed out for everybody for their perusal. Where's David? David Engelbert, would you like to make a motion, please?
2022-34 regarding the appointments to committees, commissions, and boards.
Thank you. We have a motion, and second discussion. Questions? Everybody still eating? Do you still need more time? Are we ready to vote?
Well, if you, I'll take this 1 minute if you'll.
Okay,
mind.
please.
So just for the, because we had some requests from the public that they wanted to see, so I just wanted to just share that.
Turn the mic on.
Oops. We did have some requests from the public to just be able to have a discussion on how the process is done, so I'm just going to share the screen. So again, what you see before you is you have the resolution, but then the resolution actually refers then to the attachment. And again, the attachment follows a similar form in terms of having our, and also our rules, in terms of our, what we could consider the standing committees, and then also our other committees after that. You'll see that we have each committee listed with the individuals that are on or appointed, along with the C that represents the chair. You will note for both Health and Human Services and also Resource and Planning that you have a little red C and also an I, which reflects that that chairperson is elected by the committee. So usually the first meeting for the appointed chairs, you'll elect your vice chair, but in the sense of the Resource Planning and also Health and Human Services, they'll elect both their chair and vice chair for their first meeting now in May. So again, these are your initial committee appointments for the ones that have the departments reporting to them. Then if you go on to page 2, this actually goes, Lori redid this all of us for us. I appreciate all of her work and effort. We have them down in alphabetical order. And then again, you'll see the appointments. What you'll see on these appointments as well is you'll see the citizen appointments along with a term if it's been established by a term. So for example, the Aging and Disability Resource Center has a specified term, whereas like the Broadband Committee does not have a specified term. This depends on how long we can get that individual to serve for us in most cases. Likewise, you will see, just in this case, there are some areas where we have appointments being made that are citizen members that are new. So for example, under the Broadband Committee, you'll see items 3 through 9 are listed as the appointments, and we also have 2 alternates Again, just because right now the DC EDC director is not in a position, but we also have an alternate citizen member that could fill in case we need a quorum. Then likewise, you'll see, I guess, the other appointments for the committees where there are either citizen appointments or, for example, under the CATS, those are technical positions that are appointments and so forth. Again, we go through all of those committees. Just for those that are new in terms of reference, I should have pointed it out in the beginning. On the bottom, you'll see in that first page, the appointments are depending on the committee who makes the appointment. So the ones that are in yellow would be, I guess, appointments that are made by the county board chairperson. The ones that are in green are appointed by the county administrator. And likewise, the orange is an elected position. I will say that when we do our committees, I work with the chairperson and we build a consensus on all the committees for balance. And then as we get those appointments coming up, then we'll also meet to make sure that we always have good representation. So while it falls underneath the responsibility of David or myself, we work together in terms of making sure that we have the proper appointments made. Just to kind of go on through the rest, I just wanted to go to the last page in terms of the appointments. You can just kind of see again how we filled out all the committees. Again, you'll see a lot of names in these because, again, a lot of these have a lot of citizen members or technical people that serve on those committees and so forth. Again, a lot of these are going to be appointments where they actually have a term or we're reappointing those citizens to continue serving on those committees moving forward. So I gave you guys a little bit of time to digest, and I don't know if there's any questions. And then,
Vinny?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I have one. Could you just clarify, you said for the sections in green, but then like for Health and Human Services, it has someone identified as a chairperson, but then it says they're elected by the committee. So would there be another election as that committee begins next month, or how does that work?
And that's this way Lori formatted it, so that's why I wanted to clarify it. The C by Rodney's name and the C by David's name is not designating them as chair. That's stating that we do not have a chair in place until they're elected at their first meeting.
Okay.
So right now, there is no chair, it's just identified in red.
Well, it's just an alphabetical order based off of county board.
Correct.
For who's sitting where.
Right.
I'm just looking at them right now and it's all.
Yeah, Lori tried to make it as neutral as possible in terms of entering them in, but those two committees do not have a chair at this point in time until the first meeting.
Well, I'm not saying that it's a requirement, it just like, as it looked, it was like we have no female chair people. So I just was noticing that, but if those are red, then that's an opportunity that there may be, so thank you.
Correct.
Any other questions? That will go to the voter board.
Oh, 1 second, let me just stop sharing.
When are we gonna do computers?
Next. Just to check your tablets, so we need Supervisor Boltman.
You got it, he got it.
Oh, got it, okay. And Hugh, we need yours.
That's passed the vote of 21 yea, 0 nay. Thank you. Okay, next will be the,
So we're in the home stretch. So this is the next one under special reports. Those are just two items. They're, our annual reports are again posted to the site that you're able to do along with our annual report for our gifts, grants, and donations. Again, you can see those, the link, and you can access those online. So we'd like to kind of finish the meeting today with handing out your computers and going through a training. The training will probably be under 30 minutes, so we'll get you guys out. But we do have changes in terms of how the computers work, so we'd ask that you, if you can, stay to please stay, just so we can kind of go through it. We will try to make it as efficient as possible, so we'll go through that process right now.
is there anybody that's gonna have to leave within the next 30 minutes? Okay, so just point out, the next county board meeting is April 26th at 9 a.m. last announcement, next county board meeting Tuesday, April 26th, next week. It's really nice to see everybody in one room. For those of you for the past 2 years, know that this is only like the second time in 2 years we've been together all in one room. So that's great. Looking forward to working with everybody as we start our business next week.
All right, I am missing oaths from districts 1, 5, 7, and 18, and info sheets from 1, 5, 14, 2021, and 12. I need your conflict of interest. You also on your desk had your WCA welcome packet and district meeting info, FYI. Thank you.
Okay. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
Got it. Got it. Already.
All in favor? Aye. We're now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.